Extract 2, questions 13 to 24. You hear a neurologist talking to the father of a 9-year-old boy called Tony, who's recently started having seizures. For questions 13 to 24, complete the notes with a word or short phrase that you hear. You now have 30 seconds to look at the notes.
So, Mr. Fitzgerald, I understand that Tony's 9 and his seizures started about 6 weeks ago?
Yeah, that's right. The paediatrician was worried because Tony was experiencing what he called episodes of confusion. That's why he recommended this neurological evaluation.
I see. So what happens when Tony has a seizure?
I suppose the first thing we notice is that he gets this kind of vacant look. We didn't understand what was happening at first, why it was that he didn't seem to answer our questions, but he's since told us that he can't. It's like he loses the power of speech altogether. I had a chat with his teachers to see if they'd spotted anything unusual, and they said they'd sometimes noticed the same kind of behaviour at school too. Later, we noticed that his mouth moves. It's as if he was chewing something, but there's nothing there.
Right.
I suppose all that goes on for about a minute or two, and then it takes about 5 minutes or so before he's back to his normal self.
And how is Tony after a seizure?
Well, one thing that struck me was that he hardly remembers anything about it at all. I found that very disconcerting at first. He's told us that he becomes frightened whilst the attacks are happening and that he feels exhausted after. In fact, he often needs to lie down for a bit, and he might even nod off. He also complains about having really bad headaches, though that doesn't happen every time.
And how would you describe Tony's ability to cope with life in general, like at school, for example?
Well, Tony hasn't got any problems at school. He meets the expectations of his teachers, even if he doesn't exceed them. Just your average boy, until now, that is. But he is creative, especially with his writing. In fact, one thing that's slightly unusual about Tony is that he's ambidextrous. It runs in the family on my wife's side. Her father was too. His teachers say he often writes with both hands in the same session. I did have a word with his teachers a while back because I was concerned about his spelling. They sent him for tests, and we just had confirmation that he's mildly dyslexic. It's a relief, actually, because now he's getting the support he needs.
Yes, I see. And going back to when he was born, has Tony had any health problems at all?
He arrived late, well past his due date, at over 2 weeks late, and the labour didn't go as planned. My wife was induced, and Tony seemed to react badly to the stuff she was receiving intravenously to bring on labour. In the end, he was born by caesarean because he was in distress. Then he had an infection and needed a course of antibiotics. They began that immediately, and he was on them for 5 days. They both had to stay in hospital because of it. But other than that, he breastfed well and was a happy baby, even if he did have a touch of jaundice. That soon disappeared without any need for further intervention.
I see. And there's been nothing of note since then?
Well, there is one thing. About a month after his first birthday, Tony came down with a bad virus. He had a high temperature of about 40 degrees. That brought on a febrile seizure. It was so scary. But it only lasted about 5 minutes, and then he seemed to be back to his normal self. That's the only one he's had.
Right. Is there anything in his family history I should be aware of?
Nothing of note, no. My wife's parents are Chinese, so Tony's learned both languages from when he was a baby. I don't know if that has a bearing on anything. His grandparents are all fit and well. In fact, relatives on both sides of the family seem to die of old age.
Right.
Though maybe I should mention that my wife does get sciatica from time to time. She hasn't had it for ages, but when she does, she can be out of action for weeks.
OK. Well, thank you for filling me in on all of